You're 15 minutes into an interview. The candidate is sharp, confident, well-dressed, great school, strong eye contact, and they're funny, genuinely funny. You're actually enjoying this conversation. You're thinking, this person is fantastic. Then they stumble on a technical question, a core part of the job, something they should definitely know. But instead of flagging it, you think, they probably just blanked, they seem smart, I'm sure they know this stuff. 3 months later, they're on your team, and it's becoming painfully clear they don't know how to do the job. Not because they lied, not because they're incompetent, but because you never actually verified they could do the work. You just liked them, and when you like someone, your brain fills in the gaps. That decision, made in the first 15 minutes based on charisma and good vibes, just cost your company real money. According to the U.S. Department of Labor, a bad hire costs about 30% of that person's first-year salary. If they're making $80,000, you just burned $24,000. And if this is a manager, the damage multiplies across their entire team. That's the halo effect in action. Welcome to Book Takeaways for Professional Growth. I'm your host, Sophia. Today, why your gut is terrible at hiring people and how to stop letting one impressive quality blind you to everything else. Segment 1. Why smart managers make bad hires. Let's get uncomfortable for a second. You probably think you're pretty good at reading people. You've interviewed dozens of candidates. You can spot talent. You trust your instincts. Here's what the research says. You're wrong about 50% of the time. Not because you're incompetent, not because you don't care about hiring well, but because you're human and your brain is running on autopilot. Remember System 1 from Thinking Fast and Slow? Fast, automatic, confident, and lazy about checking its work. In hiring interviews, System 1 does almost all the work. And here's the data that should terrify you. 33% of hiring managers make their decision within 90 seconds. 60% decide within the first 15 minutes. 90 seconds, 15 minutes, for a decision that might affect your team for years. That's not analysis. That's gut feeling dressed up as judgment. And what is System 1 evaluating in those first 90 seconds? Not, can they actually do this job? Instead, do I like them? Do they remind me of someone successful? Do they seem confident? Those are vibes, not competencies. But vibes feel so much more trustworthy than a structured assessment. So we go with them every time, and that's the problem. Segment 2. What the halo effect is. Let's define this clearly, because the halo effect isn't just about hiring, it's about how your brain judges people everywhere. The halo effect is when one positive quality about a person, their intelligence, their charisma, their impressive resume, their appearance, creates a halo around them in your mind. And everything inside that halo gets colored positive too. Suddenly, without any evidence, you think they're smart, hardworking, trustworthy, good at problem solving, a team player. None of those things have been proven. But your brain has already decided they're true. This is System 1 doing what it does best, making fast assumptions based on limited information. It sees one thing it likes and assumes everything else is positive too, because positive traits usually cluster together, usually, but not always. Example, the prestigious resume. Let's say a candidate went to Stanford and worked at Google. Your System 1 sees those two facts and thinks, this person is brilliant. So during the interview, when they can't clearly explain how they'd approach a problem in your environment, you rationalize it. They're probably just being humble, or they're used to having a bigger team. I'm sure they'll figure it out here. But here's the truth. A prestigious degree and a brand name company don't predict performance in your specific role. They're just halo makers. Example, the charismatic candidate. Or say someone is incredibly personable, great storyteller, confident, makes you feel like the meeting is going well. Your brain automatically assumes they'll be great at stakeholder management, at presenting to executives, at leading teams. But you never actually test it. You never ask, "Tell me about a time you had to deliver bad news to a senior stakeholder. Walk me through exactly what you said and how they responded." You just assume charisma equals communication skills. Those are not the same thing. The core problem: the halo effect means you're not actually interviewing the real person sitting across from you. You're interviewing the version of them your brain invented in the first 30 seconds. Segment 3. The science. How this bias hijacks your brain. Let me show you what's actually happening in your brain during an interview. Step 1. The snap judgment. First 7 seconds, you see the candidate. System 1 makes an instant call. It's not even conscious. It's based on appearance, tone, energy, body language. Your brain categorizes good or not good. This comes from evolution. When humans lived in small tribes, making a fast judgment about a stranger was survival critical. You didn't have time for detailed analysis, so your brain learned to make rapid calls based on surface cues. That worked great 10,000 years ago. It's terrible for modern hiring. Step 2. Confirmation bias takes over. Once you've decided someone is good based on that initial impression, your brain shifts into confirmation bias mode. From that point forward, you're looking for evidence to confirm what you've already decided, not evidence to test it. Candidate says something insightful? See, they're sharp. Candidate stumbles? They're just nervous. They're clearly smart. Candidate doesn't know something fundamental. They haven't been exposed to that yet. They'll learn fast. Meanwhile, for the candidates you've already categorized as not good, every stumble gets magnified. Every gap gets scrutinized. The good candidate gets every benefit of the doubt. The not good candidate gets none. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Step 3. Anchoring amplifies it. Remember anchoring from earlier in this series? The first piece of information becomes your reference point for everything after. That applies here too. If the first thing you notice is Stanford, Google, VP title, that becomes your anchor. Everything else gets filtered through that lens. Ambiguous answers get interpreted charitably. Red flags get minimized. But if the first impression is less impressive, the exact same ambiguous answer gets interpreted negatively. Same words, different halo, completely different outcome. Segment 4. The cost, what bad hires actually do. So you made a hire based on the halo effect. You really liked them in the interview. What happens next? The first few months. At first, you're blind to the problems. Because you hired them based on a halo, your brain is still operating under that halo's influence. Your new hire makes a mistake. They're just ramping up. They'll improve. A colleague raises concerns about their work. That person's probably just being overly critical. They might feel threatened. The halo protects them and prevents you from seeing reality. 3 to 6 months in. Now the reality is too obvious to ignore. This person, who seemed so impressive in the interview, can't actually do key parts of the job. But now you're stuck. 1. You have to admit you made a bad hire. Ego hit. 2. You've already lost 3 to 6 months of productivity. 3. You need to manage them out or start a performance improvement plan. 4. You have to recruit and hire all over again. The ripple effect. Meanwhile, your team has noticed. They're thinking, how did that person even get hired? Does competence not matter? Are connections and charisma all that count? Morale drops. Your top performers start updating their LinkedIn profiles. That bad hire you made didn't just cost $24,000 in wasted salary. It potentially cost you a high performer who's now leaving because they've lost faith in leadership. The real cost? Closer to $240,000 when you factor in lost productivity, recruitment costs, and turnover. all because someone smiled at you the right way in an interview. Segment 5. The framework, how to break the halo effect. All right, the halo effect is real, it's powerful, and it's costly. But here's the good news, you can break it. It requires discipline, but it works. Here's the framework. Step 1, acknowledge you're not immune. First, accept this truth. I am susceptible to the halo effect. Most managers think they're immune. They think bias happens to other people, not them. But research shows the opposite. The more confident you are in your objectivity, the more vulnerable you are to bias. So step 1 is just accepting that you will get fooled sometimes. That's the starting point. Step 2, evaluate specific competencies separately. Don't evaluate candidates holistically, break it down. Instead of, do I like this person? Ask about specific, separate competencies. Technical ability, separate from confidence. Communication skills, separate from charisma. Problem solving, separate from prestigious background. Collaboration, separate from likability. Attention to detail, separate from enthusiasm. Write these as separate lines on your evaluation form. For each one, ask, what did I actually observe? What's the evidence? Not, they seem smart. Instead, they explained their technical approach clearly, and when I asked a follow-up question, they adjusted their thinking and addressed the gap. Specificity breaks the halo. Step 3, use structured, identical questions. Don't wing the interview. Ask every candidate the same core questions in the same order. This prevents your brain from unconsciously giving favored candidates easier questions. Examples? Tell me about a project where you failed. What happened and what did you learn? Describe a time you disagreed with your manager. How did you handle it? Walk me through your approach to specific technical challenge in this role. Everyone gets the same questions. You evaluate everyone on the same rubric. Step 4, independent evaluations, then compare. If multiple people are interviewing, don't compare notes until everyone has written their assessment independently. Here's why. If interviewer 1 says, great culture fit, interviewer 2's brain is now primed to look for culture fit too. Confirmation bias spreads. Instead, each interviewer evaluates and documents independently. No discussion until everyone has written their thoughts. Then you compare notes. If everyone independently loved them, that's meaningful. If one person was excited and another had serious concerns, dig into why. Don't let the halo override legitimate red flags. Step 5, test the actual skills. Don't just ask about skills, test them. Ask a software engineer to write code, even just a small function. Ask a writer to edit something on the spot. Ask a strategist to analyze a real business scenario. Ask a manager to role-play a difficult conversation. A 10-minute skill test removes enormous ambiguity. It removes the halo because suddenly the candidate isn't just smart-sounding. They either can or cannot do the thing. Step 6, define culture fit with precision. One of the biggest halo makers is the phrase, they're a great culture fit. But what does that actually mean? And does it predict performance? Often, culture fit is code for, they remind me of people I already like, which is just in-group bias wearing a disguise. Define it precisely. Culture fit means they respond well to feedback, collaborate effectively, and align with our core values. Not, culture fit means they're fun to grab drinks with. The first predicts performance. The second is just the halo effect. Segment 6, your action step. If you're hiring anyone in the next 6 months, here's what I want you to do this week. Create a hiring rubric for the next role you need to fill. Not just a job description, an actual evaluation rubric. List 5 to 6 critical competencies. For each one, write, what evidence would prove this skill? What would strong look like? What would weak look like? Then print it out and use it for every single candidate interview. You don't give someone a holistic yes or no. You score them 1 to 5 on each competency, with evidence notes explaining your score. This one document removes so much halo effect bias because 1. You're comparing against criteria, not your gut feeling. 2. You have to justify your scores with observable evidence. 3. You can't give someone high marks just because you liked them. It feels like more work in the moment, but it saves you from hiring the wrong person because they smiled at you the right way. Here's what Kahneman teaches us about System 1 and System 2. System 1 is incredibly useful. It lets us make fast judgments and saves mental energy. We need it to function. But System 1 is also dangerously overconfident. It sees a nice suit and a charming personality, and it feels certain. That feeling of certainty is intoxicating. In hiring, that certainty is exactly when you need to slow down. That's when you need to activate System 2, because hiring based on the halo effect doesn't just hurt the company. It hurts your team's morale, your own credibility, and the candidate who wasn't set up for success. The good news? You can train yourself out of this. The rubric, the structured questions, the independent evaluations, these are System 2 tools. They feel like more work up front, but they lead to dramatically better hires. And that's the real ROI, a team full of people who can actually do the job, not just people who seemed impressive in a 30-minute conversation. Next episode, we're tackling the planning fallacy. This is a bonus episode exclusive for our Book Takeaways newsletter subscribers. You can sign up for free. Look for the link in the description or show notes. In that episode, we explain why every project you've ever planned took longer and cost more than you expected, and what you can actually do about it. This is Book Takeaways for Professional Growth. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Keep growing.